Hello, very beautiful, beloved soul friends. Welcome to another Conversations with Kristin, that beautiful time of your day when you explore inner workings of the unconscious mind. So today I want to just give you guys a little tip, a trick for recognizing dysregulated brain waves. Okay, and then a little trick for what you can do when you notice this kind of dysregulation. So brain waves can be described as the pace at which the brain is accessing information. Okay, so there's all this stuff going on in the brain. We've got over 100 trillion neural networks. We've got so many complex processes. We've got our left brain hemisphere. We've got our right brain hemisphere. They're having their own experiences. They only communicate through the corpus callosum, which is the little middle landscape of fibers. It's just a bundle of nerve fibers. Like, they're not even really connected. There's just this little bridge. It's like, hi. We pass messages through, but we're really not like completely united. It's just this bundle of nerve fibers bridging these two separate worlds. And then we've got our forebrain, and that's like I'm logical and I'm rational and I understand things. And then we've got our hindbrain, and that's the feeling and balance and all the implicit parts of the experience. Okay, so we've got all this complex stuff going on in our brain. But how our brain accesses that information, it comes at a certain pace. Okay, and so there's these vibrational frequencies, brain waves, and they vibrate at certain hertz, certain frequencies of hertz. And so maybe they're like this, and maybe they're like this. So we've got these different brain waves, and it's like the waves that our brain is, you can think of our brain as like swimming in these waves, and sometimes they're really mild and sometimes they're really rocky. Okay, and so you kind of think of it like that. So we've got these brain waves, and it's basically the pace at which our brain is accessing its own information. Okay, that's kind of just the easiest way to understand that. So what happens though sometimes is that when we are living with some form of mental health battle, and this may be from traumatic stress or the causality may be unknown, etc., but if there's some kind of internal battle going on, oftentimes brainwave dysregulation will be a part of it, but we won't directly know about it because our brain's not going to walk up and be like, hey, by the way, I'm vibrating at this frequency of hertz. Like, that's not something our thoughts know how to create. Our brain doesn't know how to assess its own brainwaves. That's not a skill set that it has. Our brain doesn't know how to be aware instinctively in a way that explicitly articulates the pace at which it's accessing its own information. So we usually don't know the pace of our brainwaves. We usually don't know what brainwave state we're in. But it's important to have this awareness, because then when it's going on, we can understand what's happening. Because if we don't know where things are coming from, we don't have power to respond to it. Like, if there's this stuff going on inside of us, but we don't know where it's coming from, then we don't really have power to like do something about it and like respond in like a helpful and healing way, right? We're just kind of shooting in the dark. Like, I hope I'm figuring this out. I hope I'm doing something that helps. I hope things just kind of get better. I don't really actually know where I'm going. Bah! It's not a fun place to be. It really, really helps to have power, to have insight, to have awareness about where this stuff is coming from. Because once we know the why, then we can have more power in our response. Okay, so it helps to be able to recognize dysregulated brainwaves. So you can think of it as like on this spectrum, and you've got dysregulation where brainwaves are going very slowly, and you've got dysregulation where brain waves are going super quickly. And then you've got this middle ground where brain waves are regulated and they're moving at a very natural, healthy pace where they're accessing information, but not too fast and not too slow. It's just the right pace for you to be productive and move through your day, but not be overwhelmed and stuff like that, okay? And so this is kind of the ideal middle landscape that we want to kind of reach for. And so what we want to do is learn to recognize the dysregulation and then learn to respond so that we can reprogram our brain to be more regulated. Because we can do that. We actually have the power to reprogram the automated style in which our brain waves naturally regulate and move and flow. Okay, so let's just kind of explore this gently together. So when brain waves are dysregulated and they're moving too slowly, when brain waves are moving very slowly and they're dysregulated here, that looks like dissociation. And it looks like kind of walking around in a daydream, like maladaptive daydream disorder, things like that. Those are experiences of dysregulated brainwaves, where your brainwaves are literally in a state similar to when you're asleep. And what's happening is your brain is processing life and reaching information by connecting inwards. Your brain is focused on your internal reality and it's not naturally orienting to the outside world. And that's determined by the pace of brain waves. Okay. And so the way that your brain waves are moving, your brain is focused on the internal stuff, like when it's asleep. Is similar to when you're asleep, this low state of dysregulation, okay? And so it feels like dissociation or like walking around in a daydream or feeling kind of hazy or like life seems very surreal. And what's happening is your brain is accessing information on the inside without fully orienting to the outside world. And so it's like similar to when you're asleep. Your brain is inside kind of sorting through stuff and filing things and processing these abstract implicits internally, and it's not orienting to the outside world. And so a state of dysregulation of low brain waves looks like your brain is kind of turning inward and it's focused on your inner reality, and the outside reality feels hazy or distant or like you can't quite reach it, or kind of like it's this surreal dream and it's not kind of fully real, it's not kind of fully happening, and instead what's real is whatever's going on inside of you, and the inner reality is the dominant sense of reality, and external orientation feels surreal. You might not have full processing about what your body's doing because your brain is turned inward rather than orienting with your body or experiencing this external reality. So it can feel like you're in some kind of a daydream, it can feel hazy, it can feel misty, it can feel like you're internally oriented without complete external orientation. It can look like that, okay? And so then a high brainwave state of dysregulation, it looks like things are moving too quickly. Okay, it looks like things are moving too quickly. It looks like racing thoughts, intrusive thoughts, anxious thoughts, or anxiety in the body. It looks like things are happening really fast. And so experiences of mania often involve brainwave dysregulation, where the brain itself is literally just accessing stuff too quickly. It's just going in and it's just picking up all this information at once. So when brainwaves are dysregulated on the higher end of things, they're going really fast and they're just accessing a lot of information very, very rapidly. And so it can look like mania or anxiety or racing thoughts or intrusive thoughts. Okay, and so there's these two different ends of the spectrum of brainwave dysregulation. And so your brainwaves might be going slower than optimally, and everything's kind of turned inward, and your inner reality is what's feeling like the dominant aspect of life, and you're very deeply aware of stuff going on in this inner reality where it's kind of like an internal daydream type thing, and it's difficult to orient externally. Or there might be brainwave dysregulation on the higher end of things, and the brain is accessing information really, really rapidly, and it might look like intrusive thoughts, racing thoughts, anxiety, mania, things like that. Okay, and so once you start to tune in with these clues of consciousness, you can recognize what's happening. And even just the act of putting a name to what is occurring can help your brain heal. Because when you're going through a sensation and you can't pinpoint it, it kind of puts this brain into a panic mode of like, this stuff is happening and I don't know what it is. But when you can recognize what's happening and describe it to yourself, you're actually building neural connections in your brain so that different parts of your brain learn how to talk to each other better. So even just learning to recognize it and describe it is a huge step towards healing. Once you've gotten there, once you recognize brainwave dysregulation, if or when it occurs, then you can start to take a little bit more mindful action. And so one thing you can do is meditation or mindfulness. And the more you practice this, the more your brain waves will learn to experience regulation naturally. And so one thing you can do is practice focusing on gentle stimulus. And I have a free gift for you guys that will help you practice this and harness this ability. It's called a brain rewiring playbook. It's like a workbook, but a whole lot more fun. And you can download that for free at kristinwindsor.com. insurmountable.com/gifts. And that link is also here in the video description below. Okay, brain rewiring playbook. And it walks you through this process of focusing on gentle stimulus. And gentle stimulus is basically elements of stimulus that vibrate at a certain frequency, according to my concepts regarding vibrational frequencies of stimulus. And it actually increases regulation of unconscious states and decreases the intensity of activations within subconscious realms, which is where automated thought forms are generated. And so this process helps to reprogram your brain and your body to be more present, to be more regulated, and to have greater connectivity. And so pieces of gentle stimulus are things like looking at tree branches sway in the breeze, or listening to tree branches sway in the breeze, feeling your feet on the ground, feeling the sun on your skin, feeling a breeze on your skin, looking at a flower, smelling a flower, listening to birds, looking at birds. Very, very gentle things, things that don't involve other people, and things that are very, very low in energetic intensity. And when we redirect our attention towards that, what we're doing is, if things are dysregulated on the low end of the spectrum, we're helping our brain to turn and be present with the outside world. And if things are dysregulated and they're going too fast, it helps to decrease that intensity and just bring ourselves into simple parts of the present moment and gradually help to decrease that. So it's just a way to practice mindfulness, and it's a very specific way to practice mindfulness in a way that helps to increase regulation and grow connections in the brain and the body. Okay, so you can download that free brain rewiring playbook at kristinwindsor.com/gifts. Super, super helpful. It helps unite parts of consciousness and bring them into the present moment so they're not trapped in past experiences anymore. It helps to increase regulation of your brain's frontal lobes, of your brain waves, of your nervous systems, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of benefits with it, and it actually helps to reprogram your neural networks. So anything that's going on and producing certain styles of thought forms can actually encounter healing and learn to be more integrated. Lots of benefits to focusing attention towards gentle stimulus. So thank you so much for joining me for this Conversations with Kristin. It's been an honor to connect with you, and I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day.